Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about spelling, Lincoln, and we have part one of our interview with Eddie Ross from the Into the Mind podcast. Welcome, my friends and random strangers on the internet, to the Kindness Project. I'm joined by a man who has decided today that he's going to be petty.
I'm not being petty. I'm not being petty.
And I am also joined by another man who we couldn't make this podcast without. It's Chris and Russell Dames.
I'm not talking to you. See how you get on without me, Russ.
He said he's not talking to you, Charlotte.
I know.
Russ, can you tell Charlotte I'm not talking to her? I'm not joking. Can you tell Charlotte I'm not talking to her? I'm going to talk to you via Zoom, and then tell Charlotte who's sitting next to me via Zoom that I'm not talking to her.
Charlotte, your dad's not talking to you.
He's just being petty, Russ. It's fine. It'll blow over in 30 seconds or so.
Can you tell that daughter of mine? I'm not being petty. I'm being childish. Go on then.
Immature
What are you waiting for?
in the family.
You're supposed to be the one who's good at communicating.
I am good at communicating.
I thought you
sometimes.
were
Most of the time.
Can you tell Charlotte I am good at communicating, Russ?
Yeah, he is good at communicating most of the time.
Most of the time, no, don't add stuff to when I tell you, Russ. I expect you to do it verbatim.
You don't have to stick up with it, Russ. It's okay.
Right,
It's okay.
Russ.
You don't have to
I should have made a list for that.
Tell Charlotte I'm not a pheasant plucker, I'm a pheasant plucker son. I'm only plucking pheasants in the pheasant plucker cubs.
Our podcast might get banned if I try and do that.
Welcome, my friends, to.
I already did that.
No, I'm doing it. I am joined by a man who is clearly a pheasant plucker. It's Russell Dames, and a girl who likes plucking pheasants, but she isn't a pheasant plucker, so almost no trouble there. It's Charlotte Dames. How are we, Jack? Says how we've been.
I don't pluck
bad.
pheasants.
It's only
Doesn't
Monday.
pluck pheasants. Now, last week, ladies and gents, I've got to apologise because we weren't here, were we? Well, we were.
I mean, that was fine.
You've got a podcast, but it wasn't the live, up-to-date version that we normally expect to deliver you. Because as you can probably hear, I've got a bit of a cough and a cold, and last week it was really bad. So apologies for not being here. I hope you.
Yeah, this podcast really doesn't run without discussion. Otherwise, it's just one of us waffling at a screen.
Well, you could have done it on your own.
Well, me and Russ could have done it. No problem.
Why didn't you do it then?
We'll probably be better off doing that. We'll be being petty like that.
Off you go then. I'm not being petty. See you
Right,
later.
Russ. Right, I've turned him out of the screen. He's sitting pouting. You want to join in?
Unbelievable.
You want to participate now?
Just one comment while I let you and Russell run the entire podcast. Podcasts normally need to have an element of conversation, not just you laughing and Russell staring corners.
I'll be totally honest with you. The only bit I used to run is the back end. Now I'm doing front end, back end. So I probably am
Maybe
running
back
the
end isn't
podcast.
the best way to describe it, Russ.
Where's he gone now?
He's taking himself out of the picture.
You two can run it on your own. You two are fine without me. Go on then, see you later.
You're going to stamp your feet in a minute.
Right. Now, I was look, I've
No,
genuinely.
he's taking me out.
No, right, you're back in the picture. Genuinely, I am like, look, I know you two can probably do it without me, to be fair, and you do a really good job. It would be quite an interesting experiment to do one without
For the
me.
record, we would have only done it without you because you was incapacitated.
Yeah, like if you like passed out and yeah, we'd have done it then.
If I collapse halfway through a podcast, would you
We just keep
carry on?
going. We just keep going.
Cool.
I just,
Leave it to you.
Oh, Sophie's getting
I
involved.
just join in.
Sophie'd get involved.
Yeah, well, we'd fill the gap, wouldn't we?
So you could get rid of me, and you and Sophie could run the podcast. That might work, mightn't it?
Oh, that might work.
But the the amount of willpower it took when Russell turned around and said, "I'll just do the back end," was just incredible. Anyway, on that note,
I didn't have the willpower. I had to say something.
we've all agreed that we are all necessary cogs in the Kindness Project wheel, right?
I like to think I'm the lungs. Dad's clearly the mouth.
What's Russ? The back end. Sophie's the heart of the Kindness Project.
Apparently.
Charlotte's the lungs. I'm the mouth. Russell is the bottom. Aren't you, Russ? Are you the bottom of the Kindness Project?
I am.
And now his back end and front end is the combination of bottom and face.
I'm the man that's bringing it up the rear.
Right.
Please,
This is
no.
a family podcast. Please don't do that. Now, on that note, let's try and change the subject pretty quickly and go on to question of the podcast, which is, what word do you always get tongue-tied on, mispronounce, or misspell? And what
I
word
have one
do you
for all three.
Go on then.
Feminism.
Feminism.
Yeah.
Misspelled, tongue-tied, or mispronounced?
All three.
Yeah. How do you normally pronounce feminism? Feminism.
Yeah, I've done that before. And sometimes I don't remember when I'm supposed to stop with all the M's and the N's, and so it comes out feminism.
Feminism.
It's become because I'm not the only one who does it in my sociology class. It's become a joke that instead of saying feminism, we all just say feminism.
Is feminism got a different definition? Does it actually mean something?
No.
It's nothing. How about you, Russ? What words do you mispronounce or misspell?
I'm always misspelling calendar. So,
Yeah.
for some reason, I always put 2 L's instead of 2 A's.
Yeah. I do that with
What, in Canada?
No, not Canada. Canada. He's misspelling and mispronouncing calendar.
I do a lot of bookings for our boss here. And
Not my boss.
Sophie, you bet.
I'm using calendar all the time, and I always put 2 L's for some reason.
I always find myself going calendar, misspelling it, deleting it. Calendar, misspelling it, deleting it, and then just put in my diary because that's easier. But then the other one for me is right. Can you go and get me my laptop charger, please, quickly? The other thing for me is diary and dairy. I's and A's, I always get it the wrong way around.
It's supposed to be.
No, that's E's and I's, isn't it? And that's the other one I always get.
Being. I have a problem with being.
Yeah.
And also, if I'm writing too fast, I will just put random E's on the end of words. Sometimes the word "the" had 2 E's on the end, and it was like, what?
I mean, I love a bit of Grammarly. I love a bit of spell check. It has made our lives.
I have free Grammarly, so I don't pay for it.
Well, you know what?
I mispronounce spell and all words, just all words.
Just all words.
We've all
All of them.
Yeah. So Sophie, it's all words. But you know what? Can we just talk about? We won't mention the university because other universities are available. But we went for a university tour, didn't we?
The drive was long. We had to stop. It was good.
Yeah. The university tour was incredible. But one of the outstanding points was the young guy. Was his name Reese or? I can't remember. Anyway, the young guy did a tour of the journalist school, and it was Lincoln, so let's mention it. Lincoln University. We had a good trip up there, and the guy was super enthusiastic. And his big selling point, Russ, you get free Adobe for as long as you're there. Finn.
Yes.
Finn, thank you.
God.
Oh, Finn might listen actually because he said he was going to listen to the podcast. So if you are listening, Finn, send us an email saying, and you did get mentioned. Could you
Sorry.
The podcast?
Free Adobe. The whole Creative Cloud.
Yeah. The entire 3 to.
I have to pay 24 quid for my student license.
You're not a student. How did you get a student license?
Russell, I will. I don't know about 24 quid. I mean, maybe 27 grand.
Sorry, so yeah, you might get through Adobe, but the cost of a university education is still quite a lot. And by the way, how are you getting a student license?
Well,
You better just hope nobody from Adobe's listening.
let me explain it to you.
Oh, here we go.
So I brought a course on Udemy,
Right,
and
and suddenly you're a student.
no, as part of that course, it had a code for students of that course to get student Adobe.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough.
So
How long was the course?
about 25 minutes. I know.
Sorry, you
the
went on
course-
it. You were a student for 25 minutes, and suddenly you're entitled to the
The whole reason I brought it
is to get the
because-
discount.
in the intro, he says, "Yeah, you get a student discount on Adobe."
I've
So
been a
for a
student.
tenner, the Adobe is like 49 quid a month. So for
Not a bad
tenner,
deal, is it?
getting it at
I've been a
24
student for 13
quid.
years. I get stuff
Why?
like this.
Why does the word cheating, not really a student, come into mind?
Well,
I think the word you're looking for is loophole.
Loophole.
I think it's more of a loophole. That's why I'm crafty.
He is crafty. He is
Never said there was
crafty.
anything wrong with crafty. You save a lot of money being crafty.
Clearly,
That's right.
clearly.
Frugal.
Frugal. Yeah,
I
it's
get
fine.
called a squirrel for it, but you know.
In other news, going back to the question, words that you tongue-tied, misspell or mispronounce. If people want to write in, where can they write into?
You had to say it in the middle of yawn, didn't you?
And Finn, we want to hear from you, mate. If you did say you were going to listen to the podcast, this will be the test of whether you actually listen to the podcast.
I'm sorry he's like this. I'm so sorry. If you want to get in touch with us, it's on Twitter. We're at Ola Kindness, HOLA Kindness.
Particularly you, Finn. Where are you, mate?
If you want to get in touch with us on Facebook, you type the Kindness Project into the search bar. We should be the first thing that comes up.
I'm talking to you, Finn.
He needs to stop. How do we get him to stop? Does he have an off button? If you want to get in touch with us via email, it's honor@thekindnessproject.co.uk.
Finn, just confirm. Finn, for you specifically.
I'm so done.
H-O-L-A. Why is Russell putting his hands over his eyes?
He's embarrassed with his behaviour,
H-O-L-A.
like the rest of us.
Just focus on your back end, Russ. HOLA at thekindnessproject.co.uk. And on that note,
You didn't let me do the website.
Trying to do the website.
The website is www.thekindnessproject.co.uk.
What do you mispronounce? The website, no? For what?
www.thekindnessproject.co.uk.
Yay!
And MySpace is no longer an option. We don't talk about it.
No.
Friends reunited?
No.
No, we reunited with too many old friends.
And they're all on Facebook now. So
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and on that note, we are going to move on to a couple of little news stories all around kindness. And that's got a jingle, which is...
Kindness news. Better done by someone who can sing.
Dog edition.
Oh, I love a dog.
Go on.
Oh, okay. You scroll past the title. Okay, here we go. Heroic dog gets awarded for saving over 100 koalas from Australia's bushfires. Oh! Now the Australian Coolie Bear named Bear has been named. Did I skip something?
Coolie Bear named Bear. No, it's Coolie named Bear.
Right, okay, so
Winning an award from.
an intrepid 6-year-old dog helped rescue over 100 injured koalas. I've clearly mispronounced koalas. Koalas from the Australian bushfires in 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, dogs don't live that long. Now, the Australian Coolie named Bear has been named a hero, winning an award for the International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFAO.
IFAO, International Fund for Animal Welfare. Bear was trained in Australia at the University of the Sunshine Coast, where the detection dogs for conservation team took the former rescue dog to use his heightened sense of smell to hunt down injured koalas among the ashes.
Research fellow Dr. Roman Cristescu, who leads the USC team, said Bear received extra pats and extra play after he was honoured via video during the IFAL Animal Action Awards event in London's House of Lords.
She said Bear's sense of smell, along with his enthusiasm for play, made him ideal for research projects such as recognising the scent of koala fur in the bush.
IFAL, which sponsors Bear, said the dog has been a ray of hope as he searched burned habitat to help the USC IFAL team and their partners to rescue over 100 koalas.
And he's got his own his Insta famous.
Bear the koala dog.
You can find him and all about the story on Bear the Koala Dog. It's actually
Koala dog.
Koala.
The koala dog, and actually it's not dog edition, it's actually pet edition, because we've got a cat story. Pet cat missing for 10 years in Aberdeen, reunited with owners.
A cat missing for 10 years has been reunited with his owners. Forbes had gone missing in Aberdeen in 2011, leaving Neil and Lucy Henderson distraught. The Scottish SPCA was called in after a thin cat was spotted in Aberdeen and a microchip scan led to the owners. He was found less than 2 miles from where he went missing. Now living in Edinburgh, the owners are delighted to have 12-year-old Forbes back in their life. They had searched for their pet for months after he went missing. Mr. Henderson said, when Forbes first went missing in March 2011, we were distraught. We'd had him from when he was a kitten, and he had such a special bond. He was such a unique and friendly character. We absolutely adored him. Our friend made posters, and we went door to door in the area we lived in Roseman. We asked people to check garages and sheds, as we thought he may have been locked inside. After 8 or 9 months, we very sadly had to come to the realization that the worst may have happened. He said he was overcome with emotion when he learned that Forbes had been found.
So the cat come back. Dream come true. My wife phoned when I was on the motorway, and she told me I had to pull over. I was completely unprepared for what I was about to be told, and hearing that Forbes had been found left me completely astounded, to Mr. Anderson.
He immediately turned the car around to go home. We travelled to Aberdeen the next day, and when he was brought out, I recognised him immediately. Forbes did give me a big cuddle, so I'm hopeful that he remembered us. At the moment, we are just gradually introducing to our 2 dogs and 2 cats, which is just the best outcome for us. We never thought we would see him again. It's like a closed chapter. It's just opened up. It's a dream come true.
So how long was he away?
10 years.
Nearly 10 years. So 10 years reunited with the cat is amazing. Go on, what was you going to say, Zoe?
If he was 12, he would have been 2 when he ran.
Yeah.
So he was
He
literally...
didn't run away. He went missing.
And it's weird.
Cats just never wondered. It's just what they do.
It's weird because, like, typically you assume that cats aren't going to be the most affectionate animals, don't you?
Oh, no, they're so sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, glad that cat got found. So there are our sort of bits of news. Now we're going to move on to the interview. And the interview this week is with a young gentleman called Eddie Ross. Now, Eddie Ross runs a podcast, the Mental Health Podcast, and he's been really brave about talking about his own mental health challenges, not only to his friends and family, but just opening up on the podcast about his own challenges and sharing some of the experiences that have helped him overcome his own mental health challenges. Now, we do a lot of mental health interviews on the podcast, particularly this year.
Well, it's really important this year because obviously...
Why do you think that is?
Because everyone's mental health is in the toilet this year.
Yeah.
Because of COVID and the lockdowns. And,
yeah, I mean,
yeah, everyone's mental health is in the toilet like poo-poo.
I mean, Eddie Ross is doing amazing work on highlighting some of these issues, and just he's got a really good way of talking about it in a way that, you know, he's personal because he's experienced it. Just remind me, Ross, what's Eddie Ross's podcast called?
I don't know offhand.
Okay, we'll get the.
They'll be in the show notes when the show notes come out. So
yeah, so check the links to the show notes for Eddie's podcast. Definitely worth a listen to. And let's get on the interview.
Let's do it.
Eddie, thank you so much for coming on the Kindness Project podcast. How are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm
Well,
doing good.
let-
Busy as always.
Good. Well, let's start with something sort of not related to any subject we're going to talk about during the podcast. How's your day been? What have you been up to today?
It's been busy. It's been hard. At the moment, I'm working on a building site.
Okay.
So usually my job is maintenance, which is little bits and pieces. Fix a door handle, change a light bulb in offices. But I've actually taken a couple of weeks off because I haven't planned a holiday.
Okay.
So I've taken a couple of weeks off of my day job, and I'm going to go work with another company who do the bigger works. So I'm actually on a building site. So if you have a look at my hands, and they're always cuts and bruises and stuff like that all the time. But it's been hard, but I've got off early just to come here.
Mate, the problem is you are talking to a man who, for many years, has got paid to talk and think for a living. So actually, hard work for me is just like sort of not that manual. I've got a guy in my house at the minute who's doing our fitted wardrobes, and there is a bit of me that goes, I really should be able to do that, but I can't. So thankfully, I get paid pretty well to talk and think for a living. And
if you're good at something, never do it for free.
True. So let's start, with the question that we always ask our guests when they come on. Tell us a bit about you.
Well, I'm approaching 26 in a couple of weeks. I have my mum, dad, and my kid brother, who's 16 at home. Done college for a couple of years, studied BTEC Sport. Didn't exactly finish it, but I've still got a job now, so it's fine. Yeah. I live at the gym. Any free time, I'm always at the gym. But if you want to go into more personal stuff,
tell us a bit about family,
So my mum's a practice manager at NHS Surgery in Stepney, and my dad owns his own building company.
Okay.
So he's the person I'm working with at the moment. So that's why I can only do a couple of weeks.
What's it like working with your dad?
I usually only work weekends. Okay. And that's enough.
Yeah.
Because I still live at home.
Yeah.
So, I get up with him and I have lunch with him and I eat dinner with him. So, I think I irritate him more than he irritates me.
Well, it's funny because I mean, we're a family business. Like Sabello, the financial planning business I run as a day job, employs my brother, Russ. And Cassie's a part. I've got to be really careful about how I say this. So Cassie owns 50% of the business. She's my wife, and we also employ Russell. I almost said that Cassie was an employee, and that would have got me in a lot of trouble. and then Russ also supports us with the work we do on the podcast and other stuff we do, and then Charlotte's involved. And it's a weird one because I don't know how you find it with your dad, but when Cassie and I started working together and living together was quite difficult. It is
a bit challenging because I'd still live at home with my parents.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like even if we have a bad day, I still go home and we have to almost pretend to me mum that everything's fine, and then she can easily clock on that something's not right.
What's happened at work?
Yeah. Just leave it. It's fine. It's okay. Whatever. And then, but there's so many things that I do differently to my dad at work. But because he's the boss, I have to kind of bite my tongue.
Yeah.
But sometimes I struggle. I struggle biting and just be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Way.
Yeah,
and it just never goes down well.
But the dynamic is different at work to it is at home, I'd imagine.
Yeah, even the speech dialect is totally different. Yeah. Obviously on a building site to when we get home with me mum. So there'll be swear words everywhere at work, and then we come home and it's all nice and polite. And all happy family again.
I mean, it's interesting when we do podcast interviews because some people are really, really sort of good, and we appreciate that. But I did have one guy, and he was an amazing guest, and the story he told was really good. But he ran a charity called Product of a Postcode.
Okay.
Really good charity helping kids who haven't had the greatest upbringings
sort of find their purpose in life and move forward. The challenge he's got, he was a proper like acty boy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who spoke like a proper acty boy. And in the end, we had to get the bleep machine out. First time ever on the podcast, we've had to do that. And part of me, so I was speaking to Russ about this, and part of me was like, we can't bleep everything out because that's his natural way of doing it.
It's just his style.
But yeah, it was a real interesting one. But yeah, context is as ever all important. And then how old's your brother?
He's 16.
Okay.
He's at college. I say he's at college. He's there when he wants.
Yeah.
We think he's at college, so I hope he's still going. He's the smart one.
Right.
He's a smart one. I'm the hands-on social one. He likes his own company, his own space, whereas I like to be around people all the time.
Gotcha.
Don't know how that's happened, but it has.
Yeah.
He's now studying economics, accounting, and business.
Okay.
I studied sport.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's two differences between us.
Yeah. But
no,
you're the
he's
extrovert. He's more like
Exactly.
cerebral and.
He's
gotcha.
comfortable in his bedroom, in his own space.
Gotcha.
Whereas I can't sit there in front of the telly for more than an hour. I have
Right,
to be up and about doing something.
Yeah, more active. And then tell me a little bit about the podcast, how that came about, what inspired you to start it, and what's happening with it.
So what happened was the height of lockdown, the first lockdown, the original. That was when I had 2 weeks off, 2 months off of furlough, and basically I noticed on social media a lot of friends and stuff were kind of struggling with being at home. People aren't quite used to it.
Yeah.
So I started posting, like motivational things and, how we can all uplift each other together. And that's where like my slogan, actually Stay Positive Together, comes from, is that if as long as we're all together with it, we can help each other, we can all stay relatively happy. So as I was posting more and more stuff, someone actually said to me, why don't you do a podcast? Because I was doing videos. And I never kind of understood what I was doing with it, and I didn't think it was the thing to do. I didn't think people listened to podcasts because I didn't. And then it wasn't until I listened to a handful of it, I was like, do you know what? I can actually move around the room. I can do this whilst going to work. Even at work, I can put it in my earphones. Like, it's really convenient.
Yeah.
So I thought, instead of actually doing videos in my bedroom, I'll create a podcast. So I got the laptop out, bought a mic, and just started there. In my bedroom.
You know what? I mean, it's really interesting. I think our sort of our reason for the podcast is because it does allow that sort of format, because people are moving around and doing other stuff and like sort of commute to work and stuff like that, just allows for deeper conversations to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like on a video, I think people's attention spans are quite short, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas a podcast allows you to dig a bit deeper.
It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
Podcast is just a conversation, so it makes the guests feel a lot more easier. And even when you're talking to yourself on the podcast, it's not as daunting as if you was actually with someone else talking about yourself. In a strange way. It makes sense in my head.
Well, I think we when Charlotte and I record our bit of the podcast, we always direct it to somebody we're just trying to make chuckle. That's our aim, and we've been told a couple of times that we every now and again we do the job. So I'm quite happy with that. But what you've done is picked a subject that I think we don't talk about enough. So what made you pick mental health?
I've suffered myself with mental health. So I am actually a recovering drug addict.
Right.
So it'll be this December 7th will be 3 years clean and sober. So at a place where I was at the time, and when people was then starting to struggle in lockdown, I couldn't let people then reach to the point where I was. Obviously, different circumstances, what I was doing, but I couldn't let them get down to a certain level. So that's why straight away it was about mental health, because I understood it. I understood it because that was who I was, and that was a thing for quite a few years. So if there was anything I was good at doing, was helping people through mental health, because I'm an empath as well. So I take on people's emotions, I take on people's feelings. So even situations that I haven't actually gone into myself, I can pick that up just in a room.
Do you find that being empathetic and being an empath actually is quite a challenge at times.
Oh, it's definitely a gift and a curse.
Yeah,
it definitely is.
Tell me a bit about that.
It's a gift because I can relate to people and I can help them, and by getting into their shoes when no one else really can. But it's also a curse because I then take on that emotion that's got nothing to do with me. So, people talk to me all the time on my social media about some issues that they have going on, and sometimes I'll walk down the stairs and family will look at me going, "Was that an hard day?" And I'm like, because they can feel that I struggle with it. But then at the same, and it's not selfish, because I'd rather sometimes take on people's feelings because I know a little bit different how to handle it than them themselves, especially if they're new to mental health. So if they're feeling a certain way, I would rather take that off them. And
I suppose you could argue that that shared problem then takes part of the burden off of them.
Exactly, yeah. And like I see a private therapist every week, and I have to because of the amount of people that talk to me. So it was about my own issues. It's now about everyone else's that I take on. So, but I do need to take, every so often I take a couple of weeks off the podcast and the page just to kind of recharge the batteries and get back into it. Otherwise, my whole life is kind of depressing. So sometimes I do need a bit of normality back into my life. So I do take a bit of a break, and then it goes.
But I suppose that raises an interesting issue, doesn't it? Because, sort of mental health we see as a challenge when people struggle with their own mental health. But I suppose there's a perspective in terms of finding the techniques to have more positive mental health. So what do you think about that?
I think people struggle so much when they first kind of receive mental health. So even if people misjudge it completely, because you can have a rough day and people go, "Oh my God, I can't believe today, blah, blah, I'm feeling so down and depressed," but you just had a bad couple of days. And that's the difference in it. But from going into good mental health, I don't think you can actually have good and bad. I think you can have unbalanced. And I think that's the difference into it. So if you're on a weighing scale and a couple of things have come upon that's a bit heavy on the mind, then it obviously takes you down a little bit. But then it takes maybe some sort of talking therapy, or it's even if it's medication, that will bring the scale back up.
Gotcha.
So I don't think you're ever going to have good or bad. I think you're just going to have balanced or unbalanced. People need emotion. Emotion comes from mental health as well.
Yeah, sure. And I suppose, finding the sort of equilibrium, the balance in it is the key factor. So what techniques work for you? How do you find
talking
balance?
Therapy, definitely. Yeah, I've seen the same therapist for
Should I send you my invoice later? Does this count?
That's fine. I see the same therapist for 3 years now, but that wasn't my first therapist. And this is the argument I have with people constantly. Because where I recommend it all the time, someone goes, "Oh yeah, but I did see one, it didn't work." No, you didn't see the right one. It's not for that person. Might not be for you, but they might be great for your next door neighbour. Do you know what I mean? So this is my fourth therapist that I've seen, and I wouldn't go for anyone else.
Okay, so if somebody's listening to the podcast and is thinking about therapy, what are they looking for in terms of finding the right therapist for them?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. I went to different kind of people and almost asked them about their background. And all of them was I haven't really suffered myself, but I have studied this and this and this. And to me, that wasn't right. Because you can read the book, you can do the test, you can get the qualifications, but unless you've
had your own challenges,
then it's a bit difficult. My therapist at the moment is a recovered crack addict. So
he's been through similar challenges.
Yeah, so some of the things that I've gone through,
gotcha.
She's like, okay, well, in 6 months' time, you might start experiencing this. Or you might have this kind of feelings because of this. So it took me a while to find that person, but once I did, I'm in contact all the time now.
Yeah. And I suppose the other thing is as well is, this that what the NHS provide in terms of free support is limited, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it's like 6 weeks and then it stops, doesn't it?
A lot longer.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, a lot longer. So that's why I want to make Into the Mind a charity. That's the main goal.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is because the NHS waiting time to be seen by a free counsellor at this minute is 8 months.
Right.
And that is far too long. So if you are suffering from any kind of depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma, and you have to wait 8 months to see someone because you can't afford private therapy, that's either going to be too late or you're going to hurt someone else.
Yeah.
And that's not good enough. So I'm lucky enough that I can afford private therapy, but not everyone can.
Yeah.
So that is why then I would like to make the charity so you can come see Into the Mind's therapists who will see you if you are unemployed.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because the waiting time, although yes, we've piled in so much money through the NHS, through lockdown, about mental health. I think it was something like £1 million or something like that got put into it.
Right.
But obviously at the time, we've obviously got like 1 million other people who are suffering through COVID.
Yeah.
So the money's gone.
Well, I suppose one of the big factors is, one of the side effects of being in lockdown, having fundamental changes to our life. And again, without getting too political about it, I think, making sure that we were precautionary during lockdown was probably the right thing to do. The government made loads of mistakes, but I don't know whether they could have dealt with it sort of better or worse. Probably better, but certainly not a task that I wished I would have taken on in terms of making the decisions.
Definitely not.
But I think the problem is, as soon as you pull that lever and say we're going into lockdown, there's unintended consequences, and mental health has been one of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people out there that have lost their jobs, their families, their houses, all because of coronavirus, or because of that decision to lock down. It's fine for the MPs who are sitting there in their own place and they're going, yes, right, we're going to go back at this day and that day. They're fine. It's the other people that then suffering, the working class. I don't like to put classes into it, but it's more to the working class that are going to suffer, and they're the ones who are more than likely going to suffer with mental health.
I mean, I realised, I say this on the podcast a lot, I mean, we were lucky throughout lockdown that sort of work continued, but I didn't realise I was the worst homeschooled dad in the world. I mean, it didn't go well with it, I've got to be honest. It wasn't a pretty sight, trying to educate my then 8-year-old.
Even my brother's GCSEs, like always revising, I was like, no,
well,
can't do it. Like, don't give it to me.
Well, you know what the weird thing is, like, so Charlotte was in her GCSE year, and actually, because they cancelled all the exams, they just gave her a set of results. But interestingly, from a mental health perspective, all of that effort she made to get to a point where she was, and you would have assumed that everybody would have been quite happy with no exams. But Charlotte was like, well, Dad, I've worked 2 years for this, now it seems pointless. And there's all of these unintended consequences that have come from this, pandemic that I think we're yet to see the end of, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look how hard you're either book smart or you're not. I wasn't. My brother is. So he's lucky. But if that was me, I think I would be really suffering with actually trying to homeschool and get the results I want. I would never have passed. If this was me at my age. I mean, even my brother, who does the bare minimum to get past anything, although he's clever, would just do the bare minimum, and he got through it. But then saying that about the mental health in when kids are going back and stuff like that. I mean, how many kids have gone to college now or sixth form who haven't actually had much contact through school? So everything's completely new. You probably haven't actually seen your mates in so long, and now you've departed and now you're going to colleges where you're in a totally new surroundings, totally new people, teachers, students, and that's that's daunting for kids that age.
Well, particularly as you're like traditionally, you'd go in and be able to build relationships in the early days quite quickly without it being disjointed, and it has been a bit different in that regard. Talk to me a little bit about those talking therapies in terms of does that relationship with your therapist ever end? Do you see it like just being something that sort of supports you throughout your life, or does it come in fits and starts? Help me understand a bit more about that.
So, because I think we get along because obviously we have the same kind of characteristics, which is addictive personalities and stuff like that. But I wouldn't ever like it just to cut off dead.
Yeah.
But then saying that, if I do send her a message, she will answer.
Yeah.
Even if it is just a problem. Like I sent her a message saying that I'm feeling this and this and this. What is that? And she went, that's psychomatic experiences. So then we had like a 5-minute chat about it. And then she said, okay, I've got a client now, so I'll speak to you tomorrow. Fine, okay, you've helped me out there. But then you do have to have that.
How much of that is just having that connection with somebody who understands?
Yeah, it is. It is. Because that's what I said, that she's my full therapist.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have asked that question if I was unsure.
Yeah.
But like I've been seeing her for 3 years. So now I consider her as a friend, but it's a work friend.
It's a professional relationship.
It's professional.
Yeah.
I'm not going to invite her around for dinner, but if I need her, then she is there.
Yeah.
No, even I check up on her and I say to her,
Are you all right?
are you okay? How are you doing? Because so many people, especially even myself on the page, is that I'm constantly helping other people, but no one wants to check up on me because they assume I'm all right because I'm helping others.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I send her a message as well, just to be like, hope you're okay, hope the family's all well, how's the dog, just have a little catch up, and then I say, can I book you in next week?
Yeah.
So
that was part 1 of the interview with Eddie Ross. More on Eddie Ross's podcast next week. And on that note, what is it, Charlotte?
'Tis the end.
Oh, apparently. So
No, I'm not letting her take that from me. It's mine.
Well, then what you can do?
No.
Well, actually, I think we should let Sophie have it because the last week's question in the podcast was your... What are you doing? We've done it now.
I don't care. I'm breaking in. This is my part.
We've done it. You just stopped me mid-sneeze
I didn't need.
with it is the end.
Didn't need.
But we will let Sophie just remind us of the last question of the
But
podcast
you haven't done the spiel.
because it was your question.
But you haven't done the spiel.
Well, as we know, listeners, because we're now 200 odd episodes in, the end of a podcast is never the end because the end is always the beginning of a conversation about the question of the podcast we had last week, which was,
What is your favourite good soup?
what is your favourite soup? And this was popular. We had loads of answers to this. First of all, thank you to Charlie, who said Pret's peppermint with chili. That sounds nice. Or their no cream of chicken. In my bachelor days, I infamously had a fridge full of Covent Garden leek and potato.
Oh, I love that.
Always on buy one get one free.
I love your buy one get one free.
Darren Cook, what does Darren Cook like?
Plain old cream of tomato, garlic, croutons, French onion soup, the hunk of bread floating in cheese. Cheese melted on top of thick mushrooms with a little... I don't know.
Stilton crumbed on top. Now, I like a soup. I'll tell you what I like doing with a soup. Getting a soup and then just breaking off
ice
bits of
cream
bread.
soup.
Oh, I do like good ice cream soup.
But that's not really soup, is it?
No, it's just...
It's just melted ice cream.
It's
But this is
So
what I
it's
like.
basically just cream.
This is what I like doing. This is what I like doing with soup. Getting a soup and then just getting big chunks of bread and putting it in the soup. Do you ever do that?
I don't like it.
No. Okay. Michael Taggart said,
My late grandmother's Scotch broth. I was brought up on it. If she's with the gods, they will have made it their ambrosia or nectar by now.
Ivor Harper likes cream of tomato, lobster bisque, and spicy parsnip.
Martha Lawton says, my mum's vegetable soup. Different veg every time, yet somehow the same essential mumness remains.
Stuart Holbrook said miso soup ramen.
Miso soup.
Hillary Rowland says homemade
Oh,
butternut.
butternut squash soup.
Yeah, love the
Amazing. Laura Miller said Turkish lentil soup. Richard said Cullen skink is lovely. Almost said Richard Cullen said all skink is lovely there.
Who's that? What's his skink?
Who's Hoyle? Why does he skink and what have he done with my soup? David Crozier said
My favourite bit of that entire thing was Russell just laughing on the other screen.
Yeah. But David Crozier said my wife makes a range of soups and they're all fantastic.
Desmond Barker says, mine is tomatoes, so that's not
Tomato. Caroline Thompson likes tomato soup.
I like
And
tomatoes.
Sharon Hirsch
Tomatoes.
said chicken soup. Eve Keith said curried lentil soup. Sandra Connington said
My homemade chicken scotch broth or ham and lentil if it's tinned Baxter's scotch broth.
Coral Knight likes butternut and lentil soup and scotch broth.
Yum.
And Al McCann. Now this is an interesting one to pronounce. Can you pronounce that? Sophie.
Mulligatawny.
Mulligatawny, absolutely right.
Mulligatawny.
Kelly Barker said Morrison's doing red pepper soup, which is lovely. But I also like the Heinz chicken noodle soup.
I like a Heinz tomato soup.
I like a Heinz
Red
big soup.
pepper
That's
soup.
my favourite.
Red
David-
pepper soup.
David Bowley said,
Bowling. Bowling.
right, don't insult our guest names. David Bowley said,
I love a bit of oxtail soup and bread.
and then Francis Barrett said,
Chicken noodle soup. Or Heinz cream with tomato soup. With a cheese toasty.
what is this
This is
mic technique
this-
where you go really loud and then really soft?
This is why I thought we were more polished than this.
Roberta White said,
Oh, friend of the show.
friend of the show, homemade chicken noodle soup or butternut squash.
Oh.
Jade Foster
And when we
Jarrett.
were just stepping into our professionalism,
Jade Foster Jarrett said kosher chicken soup.
Sean Neil Acton said French onion soup.
On.
Carol Staunton wanted
Mine would be chicken. Unless I'm poorly. Oxtail. Then
Sarah Steele said Heinz tomato. Mark O'Halloran said onion and pumpkin.
Fiona McPargo said it's got to be a Jewish penicillin.
I think I know what that is, but any Jewish people who'd love to explain what Jewish penicillin is would be appreciated. Sue O'Halloran said mulligatawny or French onion. Sharon Adkins said my homemade parsnip, carrot, potato and butternut squash.
what is
Mark Rutter said tomatoes, not soup, just tomatoes.
My
think-
man just eating.
I think he just bangs them with his phone and eats them with a spoon.
just
Put them in
tomato?
the blender and eat it cold.
No.
I think he just chucks them over his kitchen and then licks it off the wall.
Ketchup.
Patrick Floyd.
Tomato soup. It's ketchup.
There's too much sugar in it.
Patrick Floyd said any soup. Thanks for breaking it down. There's
Any
a lot of
soup is
soups
good
here.
soup.
Catherine Knowles said she chucked it all up in the wall and then licked that. Catherine Knowles said beetroot with a dash of horseradish. Hazel Gray said,
Carrot and coriander.
or,
Was it with Steve stealing people's
or
lives?
homemade chicken noodle soup.
Chicken noodle soup.
Next, chilies.
Chilies.
Gloria Mullins said,
Not the best for winter, but it's got to be gazpacho.
gazpacho. Elaine Glennon,
It's not strong as
a final one, said homemade chicken vegetable, but thick, more like stew. And on that note, my friends, and after all those soups, we're recording this on a Monday evening. I'm feeling very hungry, so I need to go and eat. Have a lovely evening. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.